The force of Donald Trump. This week, my conversation with our legal expert, Jeremy Rosenthal, and the question, is there any limit now to the president's power? Welcome back. You could make the argument that no president has managed to use his power more effectively and more divisively than Donald Trump. The question is, at this point, are there any limits? Here's my conversation this week with legal expert Jeremy Rosenthal. Donald Trump, President Trump, has really redefined the limits of power in the executive branch, from forcing universities to essentially pay money to get on the president's good side, to using the National Guard recently to take over cities that he thinks are crime-ridden. Is there such a thing as separation of powers? You know, Article 2, Section 3 is what I recall my constitutional law professor constantly drumming into our heads. Or is that only worth what any particular president, past, present, or future, is willing to honor? And I wonder how much thought Republicans have given that, as if and when a Democrat goes back into the White House, they will also have a blank check of power, given what President Trump has been able to do.
Let's grossly oversimplify our government. You have the elected legislature, and their job is to pass laws that we all have to live by. You have the courts who determine whether or not those laws are congruent with the Constitution, and then the executive's job is to execute those laws. That's what an executive is. So when the executive is now saying, well, Harvard better do this, or the Federal Reserve better do that, then it is a more expansive role. Now, obviously, again, I'm oversimplifying. In reality, the president's also the commander-in-chief of the military and has more expansive roles. But the further and further away the executive gets from being in charge of executing the laws, the more and more blurred these lines become. This is completely a function of Donald Trump and his powers. And if everybody else is going to get out of his way, he's made it clear that he will do what he needs to do to effectuate the change that he feels like he was elected to do. So to answer your question, the separation of powers is what we make it. And if we're not going to enforce those boundaries, the president has made it clear that he's going to take as much power and authority as he can do.
Well, in the immortal words of Bob Dylan, these times are a-changing, and perhaps they already have, and we're just now realizing it. Jeremy Rosenthal, as always, appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Paul.